Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're opening up a book that has quietly sold millions of copies worldwide. But I have to be honest with you right from the start. This is a book that seems actively designed to make you angry.
It really does. It's definitely not your typical, warm blanket self-help book that tells you you're perfect just the way you are.
Not at all. We're diving into The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga. And just that title, my first instinct is to push back. Who actually wants to be disliked?
Right.
We're biologically wired to want approval, to fit in. So, right out of the gate, the premise feels completely counterintuitive.
It is, and that's entirely by design.
Hmm.
What's so fascinating is that underneath that provocative title is a very serious, deeply philosophical exploration of the psychology of Alfred Adler.
Adler, right?
And the format is unique. It's not a lecture. It's a dialogue, almost like a play, between a cynical youth and a philosopher.
And the youth sees the world as this cruel, chaotic mess where your past defines you.
Exactly. And the philosopher insists the world is astonishingly simple and that happiness is available to everyone, instantly.
It reads like a Socratic dialogue for the modern age. You mentioned Alfred Adler there. I think most of us have heard of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. They're the absolute titans of psychology. But Adler is often called the unknown third giant. Why is he always left out of the conversation?
It's a real shame because Adler's ideas were, a century ahead of their time.
Yeah.
While Freud was looking backward at the past,
Trauma.
yes, and Jung was looking inward at the unconscious, Adler was looking outward at our social relationships and forward at our goals. If you've ever read, say, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People,
Oh, really?
or Dale Carnegie, you're reading Adlerian concepts, even if they don't credit him. He's really the grandfather of self-determination.
So our mission today is to unpack this philosophy. And I want to give a fair warning to you listening. This is going to get uncomfortable. We're going to talk about why trauma, according to Adler, doesn't exist.
Big one.
Why all your problems are actually relationship problems. And why being disliked might just be the ultimate proof that you are actually free.
It challenges pretty much everything we're taught. The tension in the book starts immediately. The youth is miserable. He says he can't change because of his past, his personality.
The usual excuses.
Right, and the philosopher just flat out rejects it. He says, the world is simple. It's you who are making it complicated.
Okay, let's go straight to the most controversial point, because this is where I think a lot of people might just tune out if we don't explain it well. The philosopher says, trauma does not exist. Surely he doesn't mean bad things don't happen. That seems incredibly dismissive.
Right, and the youth in the book gets furious about this, as you'd expect. The philosopher isn't denying that tragedies or abuse or war happen. He's not denying the facts of the past.
Okay.
What he's denying is that those past events determine our present. And this is the core conflict between two ways of thinking, ideology and teleology.
Okay, let's break those down. They sound academic, but the difference is crucial. Ideology.
Ideology is the study of causation. It's the cause and effect view. It's the Freudian view most of us hold by default.
I am the way I am because of what happened to me.
Exactly. My parents divorced, therefore I have trust issues. I was bullied, therefore I'm socially anxious. It says your past writes your future.
Which feels true, doesn't it? It feels like we're shaped by those events. It validates our pain. But Adler flips this.
Completely. He proposes teleology, which is the study of purpose or goals. He argues we're not pushed from behind by the past, we're pulled forward by our goals in the present.
Pulled by our goals.
He says, and this is a direct quote, we do not suffer from the shock of our experiences, but instead we make out of them whatever suits our purposes.
So we give the past meaning based on what we want to do now? That sounds like we're choosing to be damaged. That's a heavy accusation.
Well, not that we choose to be damaged, but that we choose a lifestyle that suits our current goal. And we use the past to justify it. Let's look at the example of the recluse, the friend who shuts himself in his room.
Right. The youth says this guy can't go out. He has anxiety, maybe past trauma. The conventional view etiology says the past caused this fear.
But the Adlerian view asks, what is his goal?
Uh-huh.
The philosopher argues his goal is to not go out. He has decided he wants to stay inside.
For what reason?
Maybe to get his parents' attention, to be treated with special care, or, to avoid the risk of being rejected by the world.
Wait, so you're saying he manufactures the fear, the anxiety, so
Yeah.
that he can achieve the goal of staying inside?
Exactly. He creates the symptoms to support his goal. By staying in, he becomes the center of his parents' world. The fear is real. He isn't faking the sweat. but he's creating those physiological responses to serve a purpose.
That is a tough pill to swallow. It sounds like victim blaming at first glance.
It definitely risks sounding that way.
Yeah.
But Adler would argue it's actually the most empowering view possible. Because if your past determines your future, you're powerless. You can't change the past.
You're just a machine.
But if your current goal is determining your reality, you can change your goal. You can choose a new purpose right now.
So it removes the excuse, but it gives you back the steering wheel.
Precisely. There's another example that really drives this home, the coffee shop story.
Yes. The waiter in the jacket. This one felt very relatable.
So the youth is in a coffee shop. A waiter sells coffee on his new jacket. The youth flies into a rage, screams at the guy. He says, "I couldn't help it. The anger just took over."
And the philosopher says, you made up the anger.
Right.
That stopped me in my tracks. Because anger feels uncontrollable. It feels like an explosion.
But is it? Think about the mother on the phone analogy he uses. A mother is screaming at her child, absolutely furious. The phone rings. She picks it up. It's the teacher, and instantly her voice is polite, calm. "Oh, hello. Yes, everything is fine." She hangs up and immediately goes back to screaming.
Oh, that is so true. We've all seen that switch.
If anger were truly uncontrollable, she couldn't switch it off like a light. She used anger to overpower the child. The youth used anger to make the waiter submit.
He didn't yell because he was angry. He generated the anger so that he could yell.
And that puts the responsibility square back on us. We aren't controlled by emotion, we use emotion.
Wow, and that leads to Adler's broadest claim, which might be even harder to accept. He says, all problems are interpersonal relationship problems.
All of them.
That feels like a massive stretch. What about worrying about money or feeling bad about myself? Surely those are internal.
Adler says if you were the only person in the universe, all your problems would disappear. Money only matters because you interact with others. Loneliness is only real because others exist. Even self-hatred is a strategy to avoid getting hurt by others.
Okay, the book has a case study about this, the blushing student. This girl comes to the philosopher and says, "Please cure my blushing. I like this boy, but I can't tell him because I turn bright red."
And the philosopher refuses to cure her. He tells her, you need that blushing.
She needs it. That sounds cruel.
But think about the goal. Her goal is to avoid rejection. As long as she blushes, she can tell herself, I can't be with him because I blush. It's her excuse, her safety net.
So if he cured the blushing and she got rejected anyway,
She would have no excuse left. She'd have to face the fact that she was rejected, not her condition. She uses the symptom to protect herself.
it preserves the possibility of love without the risk. That connects to what Adler calls the life lie. We tell ourselves lies to avoid moving forward.
And often these lies are about inferiority. I'm not good enough, I'm too short, I'm not educated.
But the book makes a really good distinction here between a feeling of inferiority and an inferiority complex.
Yes, a feeling of inferiority can be healthy. It's a recognition that you want to improve, which drives you to strive, to grow.
But the complex is when you use it as an excuse.
Right. An inferiority complex is saying, I'm not educated, therefore I can't succeed. It's using it to avoid trying. And the flip side is the superiority complex.
Which is basically bragging.
It's acting superior to hide insecurity, boasting about brand name clothes or past glory, even boasting about misfortune. You don't understand my pain. It's a way to feel special and control others.
That's a powerful insight that playing the victim is a play for power. So if all problems are interpersonal, how do we fix them? This is where we get to, I think, the most practical tool in the whole thing, the separation of tasks.
This is the path to freedom. It starts with realizing that our troubles come from, well, intruding on other people's tasks or letting them intrude on ours.
The book uses the example of a child studying. Parents obsess over this.
Right. Parents force their kids to study. But Adler asks, who ultimately receives the end result of this choice? If the child doesn't study, who fails the class?
The child.
Therefore, studying is the child's task.
But parents will say, I'm doing it for their own good. Isn't it a parent's job to guide their kid?
The philosopher would ask, are you doing it for the child? Or to fulfill your own desire to be seen as a good parent? He uses the proverb, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
So how does this apply to us, to the listeners?
It means that what other people think of you is their task. It is not your task.
Oof, that's a big one. We spend so much energy trying to manage how people see us. Does my boss think I'm smart?
And that's why we aren't free. You can't control their perception. You can only control what you do. If you are living to satisfy other people's expectations, you are living their life, not yours.
The book calls this the Gordian knot. The knot was impossible to untie, so Alexander the Great just sliced it with his sword.
Exactly. Adler is saying sometimes relationships are so tangled up in these expectations that you can't untie them. You have to cut the knot.
And that doesn't mean being cold or unloving.
Not at all. People hear separation of tasks and think it means isolation. It actually means boundaries. Distance is necessary for a functional relationship. If you're too close, you suffocate each other.
Okay, but here's the counter-argument the youth brings up. If we stop living for others' approval, don't we just become selfish? Just completely self-centered?
It's the paradox of self-centeredness. Adler argues that people who are obsessed with recognition, who constantly worry, what do they think of me, are actually the most self-centered people.
Because they're only thinking about I.
Exactly. Their internal monologue is, how do I look? Do they like me? They see others not as comrades, but as judges. They think they're the center of the world.
The philosopher uses that map versus globe analogy, which I found helpful.
Yeah, on a flat map, there's a center. But on a globe, every point is the center, and no point is the center. You are not the center of the world.
That's the reality check. If you think you're the center, you feel entitled. And then you get resentful when people don't cater to you.
The goal is to move from attachment to self, to concern for others. This is what Adler calls community feeling. And his definition of community is huge. It includes the past, the future, the entire universe.
Which sounds a bit abstract, I'll be honest.
It does, but the practical application is clear. Think about a storm in a teacup. If you're bullied at work and that office is your entire world, it feels like a hurricane.
It destroys you.
But if you realize the community is much bigger, you can step out of the teacup. You realize you have a place elsewhere. You don't have to cling to a small, toxic community.
And recognizing that connection leads to contribution. You find your value not by being praised, but by feeling like I am beneficial to the community.
And subjective is the key word there. You don't need them to say good job. You just need to know you contributed.
Okay, we've covered trauma, relationships, community. Now we have to land the plane on the title of the book, Real Freedom.
This is the climax.
Oh.
The philosopher defines freedom in a way that is very uncomfortable. Freedom is being disliked by other people.
Freedom is being disliked. It sounds so negative.
But think about it. Why do we try to please everyone? Because we don't want to be disliked. We follow our inclinations, our desire to be loved, like a stone rolling downhill. Adler says that's not freedom.
That's slavery to your instincts.
And to others' opinions. Freedom is the ability to choose your own path despite those inclinations. And the cost of that freedom, the tax you pay, is that someone, somewhere, is going to dislike you.
So if you're not being disliked by anyone, it means you're constantly lying to fit in.
Yes. It's not that you try to be disliked. It's that you're not afraid of it. You separate the tasks. I will live my life this way. Whether you like it or not is your task.
The philosopher shares a personal story here about his father to illustrate this. They had a terrible relationship. His father hit him.
And for a long time, he thought, I have a bad relationship with him because he hit me. That's ideology. He was powerless.
But then he flipped it to teleology.
He realized, I brought up the memory of being hit because I don't want a relationship with him. It was his goal to keep his father at a distance.
And that realization gave him what the book calls the interpersonal cards.
Exactly. As long as you blame the other person, they hold the cards. But if you realize your goal is fueling the conflict, you take the cards back. You can change your goal.
He says, I changed. And whether he changed was his task, not mine.
And in his case, the relationship did eventually heal. But the freedom came from realizing he had the power to change his own approach, independent of his father's reaction.
It's incredibly empowering, but also terrifying. It takes away all our excuses.
It does. It removed the victim card.
That says,
you can change. You can be happy. Right now, the world is simple. It's only your subjective view making it look complicated.
So let's bring this home. What does this mean for you listening? It means trauma doesn't define you. You define it. It means your problems are interpersonal, but you can solve them by separating tasks.
It means you have to stop living for the praise of others. The courage to be happy is fundamentally the courage to be disliked.
It's about cutting that Gordian knot. You know, we started this deep dive talking about how Adler is the unknown giant. But these ideas feel like tools you can use immediately.
They are. But as the philosopher warns, understanding them is easy. Living them is hard. It requires a constant choice, living in the here and now. It's not a magic pill, it's a practice.
So here's a question to leave you with. We talked about how we hold all the cards in our relationships. So ask yourself, what life lie might you be telling yourself right now to justify staying exactly where you are?
Are you using an awful boss or a lack of talent or a past trauma as a shield? What would happen if you drop the shield and just move forward?
That's the scary part. But maybe, just maybe, that's where the freedom is. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.